A lot of our ecosystem believes that the right approach to go to market is you're not creating demand, you're capturing demand, right? I wonder if in this new world that we find ourselves in, for a company to thrive, you actually have to be able to create demand as well, which is a muscle. Like it's a different muscle, it's a different set of skills. If you're a company that's doing something for the first time that it's ever been done, you're not selling against pre-existing budget, you're selling against status quo. You have to know how to create demand in that instance. And so one is
Austin,
definitely,
let me
yeah.
ask a question. So I wasn't aware that we think that. So tell me, explain on that idea more. You think people don't think they need to generate demand? They think that demand already exists for their category and they just need to capture it?
Yes, there was a post by Dave Kellogg on this point, I think last night as well, which is that you're better off trying to capture the existing demand that's in the market than you are trying to create demand. Um, that assumes that you're in a competitive category and there is existing demand. Like it assumes so many things that I think played out for 7, 8, 10 years, right? When interest rates were very low from 2009 to 2022, you might have found a lot of companies that got to 50 or 100 million in revenue by doing exactly that.
Hmm.
But if you look back the previous decades and you think forward, I think companies will have to realize that for them to be able to get to that type of scale and just to thrive, you need to know how to create demand. And that is a different skill set, meaning that there are a lot of demand gen people and just salespeople as well and leaders that really only know how to capture it. They don't know how to sell against status quo. They know how to win if there's pre-existing budget for something. And it's a
Oh, that's
very different
interesting.
skill set.
I mean, I certainly think based on our conversation from last week that the enterprise is not in a position of just having latent demand for some of these new tools.
Exactly.
I would imagine that within the enterprise, you have to, as you say, create demand. I mean,
Yeah.
I work in a category that is so amorphous and strange that I've always assumed I needed to create demand
Yeah.
because I don't think people get out of bed every day saying, I need to join a community of like minded peers unless they're aware that it exists and unless they're aware that it can help them solve their problems. So I've never really been, not at least not running pavilion in a place where there was exist. But I love that. I guess that's what an RFP is, right? An RFP, the whole concept of it
Yeah.
is like there's existing demand and it's our opportunity to position ourselves against competitors versus having to create it from whole cloth.
It's
I
one
mean,
of
I've
the
always been on
major
the other.
reasons why, you know how they say somebody from a very large company struggles at a startup? And we assume that the struggle is because of infrastructure. Like you have more support when you're in a bigger company than in a smaller company. But the job to be done is also fundamentally different. If you're selling a CRM, you know there's budget and you're trying to tell them why our CRM is better than the other CRM, right? But that's why it's really hard for that person to go to a seed round or series A company and be like, well, now this client has no budget. We need to knock on their door and get them to understand why they should create budget, that too in this environment, and why they should prioritize this today. It's such a different skill set. It's not one is better than the other, it's just a different skill set. So transitioning from big company to small company and having to deal with a different type of organization, and then this difference in how you go to market leads to a really high failure rate for go to market leaders from big
I
companies
think
to small
I
companies.
completely agree with you. And it's just like the joke of the business card. Like when your business card doesn't say Salesforce on it, all the doors
Yeah.
don't open automatically. I've talked to a lot of founders that struggle with this too, where
Yes.
they're frustrated about all of the work they have to do to explain what their product does, why it's valuable, what the ROI is. They assume because they're really interested in this thing that if they just get into enough conversations, people will just buy it without having to go through the entire process of explaining, like, why is it valuable? How is this going to transform your business? And, doing the product marketing of it. I had a conversation like that today, which was really interesting. So to your
Well,
point,
I've always
go
been on
ahead,
the
AJ.
opposite side of this. The interest for quota path, the demand's always been there. Like the commissions are there. People need to buy there's people looking for commissions. We've captured some of that market for the specific. But to your point, Sam, when I would like go, people get the problem and the idea. The biggest issue I always had was like, can you do this? Can it do this? Can it do this? Can it do this? And then it becomes this frustrating game of like, yeah, like we're 6 months into this. Here we are 6 years in, and 6 years in, you're still feeling like you're like really building to that customer in a way that's like, because it's so nuanced and specific.
When
So
you say building to the customer, AJ, you mean instead of them understanding these are the features of this product category, stop asking me for different ones. It's, well, can it do this, this, and that? And you're still in a position of saying, well, maybe, how big can the deal be?
and I don't, yeah, we've stopped. I mean, we've never really had king customers. I think there's a few exceptions that we potentially might explore if we move
You
up
did an
market.
integration for us, didn't you? I found that very
Yeah,
sweet.
that's true.
Yeah.
That job adder, right?
Yeah.
That was job adder. But we now have 15 other customers that use job adder.
You're welcome.
We LeafLink. LeafLink is the marijuana CRM. We did it for a specific customer, and we now have 25 other customers that use LeafLink. So it's like something you just kind of figure out what that demand is and capturing it. We're doing that with payroll integrations right now too.